Hi there, my name's Jane Anderson and this is the Jane Anderson Brand You Show. It's the podcast for experts who want to have greater impact, influence and income for their businesses and careers. As experts, we know that people buy from people and work with people who they know, who they like and who they trust. So I'm so glad you're here because it's that time again now to really amplify how you show up in the world. Hi there and welcome to the Jane Anderson Brand You Show, where we talk all things personal branding and in particular yourname.com, because we believe that businesses and the way that people buy from people, and they buy from people who they know, who they like and who they trust. And it is my pleasure to introduce a wonderful and very special guest today. Our guest today helps senior executives, experts and entrepreneurs make sense of complexity, foster relationships and culture in organisations where our creativity flourishes. She introduces us into ways to playfully gain new insights. So she is a keynote speaker. She gets involved in things like research to find indicators of success and indicators for change. She also runs programs on things like turning feedback conversations into ongoing development conversations. She has programs that run things like meeting mojo design, so making meetings that foster creative and productive outcomes. Experience design for workshops. She mentors executives and experts and entrepreneurs, and she runs off-site executive team and workshop facilitation. And our very special guest name is Deb Lange.
Hi, Jane. Thank you for that wonderful welcome. What a great show with yourname.com. Fantastic. Thank you for having me.
My pleasure, Deb. And I'm really interested in the work that you do, and I think it's great to have you on the show for us all to learn from you. And because, I think for all of us, for some of us who, we work in this branded space where we are solopreneurs and we live in this world of ourname.com, and our name is so valuable. And I'd love to hear your perspective through that lens. And so before we get underway, just if you could tell us a little bit about the type of business that you have, the type of people you help, and how do you do all that?
Okay, thanks, Jane. That was a big question.
It is, isn't it?
Yes, it is. Well, the type of business I have, I am a one-person yourname.com business with contractors to help out with areas that I'm not a specialist in, which may be admin or accounting or graphic design or whatever else. Mm-hmm. And believe it or not, I've been in a business like that for 25 years before it was even the way to go. And in fact, it was almost like you couldn't be proud of that 25 years ago. It was kind of, you were doing it in a bit of a sneaky way. But because it wasn't like it was important enough. Like a business had to be, staff, a team, it had to be something you sold. So the one person solo sort of entrepreneur, it wasn't as big as it is today, obviously. Right. However, my first ever consultancy, and this is really quite important because why I was chosen was because I was a one-person business. Right. Because it was a big corporate, and they decided that they'd often engage the big corporate consultancy firms, but they never got the names of the people who had established those consultancy firms. They often got the juniors, and so they'd end up disappointed. So there was a big corporate company that said, well, we want a group of facilitator consultants, and in fact it was to coach the managers in facilitation skills and team engagement. But they decided they would engage single entrepreneurs. And so there was a group of 6 of us in the end, but we were all in our own solo businesses. Right. And so they were quite forward thinking at the time. Mm-hmm. And I think, of course, that is very prevalent today, that people do want the person on the shingle. They don't want somebody else in the junior or the the person still being trained or whatever else. I mean, I know the corporates have still buying the big consultancy companies, and there's still the place for them. Although I think, interestingly, a lot of the big consultancies do more research, which then they provide to people like us, which is great.
Right. So, Deb, what exactly do you deliver when you are working with your clients?
Right, well, it's really fantastic today because there is this huge engagement issue. And so we are in this transition from very controlling organisations, hierarchical organisations, to flatter, more networked organisations. But we're still working it out. So what that means, if you've got managers, business owners and employees kind of floundering in a way, trying to work out, well, years ago I used to have to respect authority, the hierarchy. Well, now, in fact, I don't. I won't respect you unless you really earn it. But how does that place me? Because you've got power over me to hire or fire. So if I want to speak up about ideas, am I making myself vulnerable or aren't I? And then for a manager, I have to develop my employees. Well, then will my job be taken away? So there's a whole lot of actually fear and distrust and insecurity in an organisation. And so I go and help build bridges between, if there are still hierarchies, even fairly flat organisation, there's still normally a management structure and employees. Really, what I call a much more reciprocal relationship where we're seeing each other as human beings. We're seeing each other as people. It doesn't matter what our title is. And, of course, it doesn't matter where I am in the organisation. If I can see a job that needs done or something innovative, I can actually sort of step up and say, well, I can see that. I'd like the authority to lead that, no matter, what my title. And maybe I lead a project for a while, and then when that comes to an end, maybe I go back to my original job, and maybe I'm following somebody else in another team. But there's much more a reciprocal relationship between a manager and an employee, and the ability to step up and lead, or step sideways or step down and support, rather than in a traditional hierarchy.
And so do you do that? Do you do workshops or training or coaching, or how does that work?
Well, what I love doing is actually working what I'd call live with a group of people.
Okay.
So, for example, soon I'll be working with an executive team. They've got a new CEO coming in. So I'll be working with them to build their new team, basically build the relationships, build the trust across that group of people, and help them with a way forward so that they can keep building a high level of safety and trust to have the conversations they need to have. Right. But if I don't get to work live, yes, I do workshops or training programs where people can learn the skills.
Right.
It's still quite live because I actually try and I do make design, very experiential design. So, the old-fashioned thing of sort of chalk and talk, where there's, if there's anything to be read, it's done outside of the workshop space, and then inside the workshop space is the space where we get to engage, talk, communicate, give feedback, in pairs, and so it's all highly experiential.
Right. And so what made you decide to use deblange.com?
Well, I am a one-person business, so I am the brand. I want people to know that if they want my services, they're buying me. Yes. They're building a relationship with me. We build safety and trust with one another so that I can really take them to a place that perhaps maybe they haven't gone before, or they haven't got the skills to go before. And so trust is absolutely fundamental, because otherwise, we can only go as far as we trust one another.
Yeah.
But the deeper trust we have, the more openness there is, the more we can actually be vulnerable and share what we really don't know, and then we can actually help and solve those problems. But if we're all playing bravado or pretending that we know a whole lot of stuff because we don't feel a high level of trust, we only skim the surface.
Yes.
We can't dig deep and really get to the root of challenges and issues, and so it's kind of like a surface level thing.
It's so true you say that. Like, now that I sort of, just listening to you more, it makes me think about Brene Brown's work around, like you talked about, the whole vulnerability. And when I had my previous business, and I still have it, but from shifting over into the yourname.com, back when I had that business, one of the things that when I first started was that I was so scared of putting my name on the shingle, because I thought, what if something goes wrong? Like, what about my reputation? And, all those types of things. And I had this huge fear of what if something goes wrong and my name is plastered all over everything.
Mm-hmm,
and yet it was the not having my name on there was creating the greatest disconnect and commoditizing me. And so I was competing on price all the time, or finding it really hard to differentiate. So you couldn't be the leader. It was very hard to be the leader in the space, because people associate the leadership really with the person, as opposed to, as you said, like a different brand on the front. And so people just they just couldn't connect, and so when I had competitors who were all sort of losing, they were sort of going back to jobs when we had a big change here in Queensland, with a lot of people who'd lost their jobs. That real shift into that yourname.com, you're so right. It just really does. People know immediately who they're dealing with, don't they?
And how great that you got over your vulnerability, because yes, it's sort of, because I have worked for myself for so long, I've got used to that. But yes. I can remember at the beginning, feeling like, well, who am I to call myself, my business and my name?
Yes.
And I think that is, well, to varying degrees. I mean, some people are comfortable with that and they'll just do it. And I think it's a lot more accepted today. It's what people are looking for, especially if you are in the business of providing expertise and advice.
Yes.
And so, but it does take something to be willing to put your name there.
Yes.
You are standing there in the limelight saying, here am I, come and see. And so you have to feel good about yourself. You have to feel really comfortable with yourself.
Yes.
To be able to do that.
It's quite raw, isn't it? And Deb, did you ever feel like, I mean, if I think about you, being in business, you've been doing this for 25 years, which I think is just incredible. So you've seen a lot in that time. And I guess for someone like at my age, I've sort of come through, going, social media has created this platform that's leveled the playing field. And so people under yourname.com who are solopreneurs, or even if I think about the Brian Tracy's and who those have got really big platforms, it's, you can still be the small player in the big industry. And social media has sort of made that change happen for people like us that are, solopreneurs, or we just have small teams. But did you, before all that has happened, or did you start to see that change happen quite early? Like, because if you've been in your business for 25 years, and, we were talking a bit earlier about, how that wasn't necessarily the done thing. Have you noticed the shift in trust in people as a result of, this transparency now, or have there been other things that you've noticed along the way?
Yes, I have noticed the change. That first company that took me on, they were forward thinking, but that thinking has increased of wanting the person, not just wanting a company that's kind of faceless,
right?
And not knowing who you're going to get in the company.
Right.
So I think that has increased, definitely. And of course, there's been more and more people wanting to go out on their own because they've been dissatisfied with working for large corporates.
Right.
I think more people have developed more confidence and trust in themselves to actually be able to do that. So there has been a big change. The biggest thing for me, if people are thinking about going into brand you, is a fantastic lifestyle, and it has created a fantastic lifestyle for me because I did do it to be able to have children and have school holidays off and not have to negotiate things with, a company.
Okay.
So I could do that for my lifestyle. And then I also in midlife took a lot of time out to care for my aging parents.
Okay.
So I've been able to do all sorts of things. And I've also included sabbaticals for my own training and professional development.
I see.
So I've been able to do all of those things that I've wanted to for lifestyle, a life-work balance integration. But one of the things that I did do when I did take some time out to care for my parents and have a sabbatical is that I did let go of the business at that stage. And I think for anyone in the brand new business, I think no matter how small you get because of maybe some lifestyle choices, now with technology, I would highly recommend that people still at least blog or write a book in that time or still have, a few clients or still be positioning themselves even if you are doing something else.
Yeah.
And I think we can do that today with technology. So you can choose how much you want to work or how little, depending on that, that lifestyle choice when you are a brand new.
That's great advice, Deb. I think that, for you've seen the cycles and, those shifts, and now that it's much easier to keep visible or to keep productive, that's really powerful. What are some of the things that you think that, even the intro to the show that I talk about is people work with people who they know and who they like and who they trust. What are some of the things, and I might be putting you on the spot a bit here, but that you see that people who have brand new type businesses can do to build trust in their businesses and with their audiences?
Well, I think one of the biggest things to build trust is actually sharing yourself.
Right.
And so whether that's one-on-one or whether or not that's, in a group when you're about to facilitate a group or if you are having a business meeting, the more we share of ourselves, the more others are willing to share of themselves.
Yes.
So it's like we have to model that.
Yes.
Now, it doesn't mean you have to share all your everything that's in your
dirty laundry.
Yeah, you don't. You still can be discerning, and you've still got a private life that you might want to keep, or even though everybody's on Facebook as well, so there's this blurring of private and professional.
Yes,
but you still get to choose, and we've got so much about ourselves. We can choose. We can choose to share something which does help build trust. And the simplest things are getting to know people as people.
Yes.
Like to begin a conversation and start getting to know each other as human beings.
Right.
And, what our interests are. And it might seem like you're there to do the work, but that a part of the work is building the relationship. And if you don't have the relationship, later on, if you're working together, if you haven't connected deeply, it'll be harder to get through challenges or tensions. Right. But if you build a relationship and you build trust, you back each other more. You can make mistakes which are just not a normal part of work and life and go, oh, okay, well, that didn't quite work, but we trust each other and we're going to do it better next time or whatever.
Yes.
But if you haven't got the relationship, well, then it's just, that wasn't very good, walk away.
Right.
But so it being personal.
Okay. And that's interesting because I've just been doing some work on, that's really 3 levels to building your presence, I think, particularly through social media. And I think, so often I think we've focused on, keeping visible and then, which can be through curation and things like that. Then we've got our original thought leadership. So we've got our visibility, but then from there, that thought leadership builds our credibility. But then, I don't know if you're noticing, but I'm noticing a bit more of, particularly video, through social media, being able to bring more of that on the run type, so that you can bring your personality into it. If I look at things like, I guess that's why Snapchat has become so popular, because I feel people get a sense of the real you. I don't know if you've had a look at Snapchat, but when I'm talking more to people about social media, there's all the sort of, really nice polished stuff, but I remember when I first did Snapchat, the person who assists me, Helena, she said, I remember I took this video of a cup of coffee when I was at the airport, and it was a cappuccino or something, and I sent it to her and I said, so is this the type of stuff you're talking about putting on Snapchat? And she goes, that's perfect, that's awesome. And I said, are you serious? This seems like just so boring to me. And she said, yeah, but it's real. This is, she said, this is what people want. And I think she's, the more I've started to work with that, and I think looking at things like Facebook Live and, it's being able to get a sense of that real you. And I think video has been a real contributor to that. That gets it's the cut through that it creates, and therefore the trust, isn't it?
And I think you're right. And of course you can be just, really discerning at, there's going to be parts of your life you're not going to share, but then there are parts you're willing to share. And and when you do that, yes, people do feel the real you and can connect with you or not. And that's okay, because we're not going to connect with everybody.
Yes.
But in showing that more informal real you, it is, you're showing up as being the authentic you, and because some of the other stuff is more crafted.
Yes.
And yeah, I think people like that today. They want the real you.
Yes. Yeah. And I think that's so valuable. I think we're seeing that more and more. So, during this time, so you've had incredible experience in this space. So is there anything that you would do differently if you had your time again?
Well, I think we sort of mentioned that a bit earlier. What I would do differently is when I needed to take time out for various things, still really maintain a presence.
Yeah.
Whether it's through, nowadays, through blogging, through book writing, through some speaking or whatever, but just maintaining that presence rather than... and whether that's viable or not. Obviously there are some circumstances where people might be really unwell or yes, caring for dying or sick parents or whatever else, and maybe you can't, but if there's some element of keeping your toe in the water, so to speak.
Right.
And I guess too, because I was very much doing organisational work, and during that period of time I really shifted into the one-on-one personal development space.
Okay.
And then to shift back into the organisational space was basically like starting a business and then starting another business and then starting another one. So,
right.
So I've been self-employed for all that time, but it's been 3 distinctly different brand me's. Yeah.
And I guess, do you think, Deb, that's sort of been, I guess, an advantage of having yourname.com, because you've been able to make those flexible sort of moves?
Oh, definitely.
Right.
Definitely. Yeah, and I can still see in the years to come that there'll be, like, there's a period now where I'm back with organisational work and I'm loving it, and I love the energy of, being with people in workshops and that kind of thing. Just absolutely love it. But I can see another iteration, down the track, and in fact a whole lot of different work, because, for example, that experience I had caring for my parents, when I'm older, I would actually like to do work around aging well, dying well, but not yet. So, that will be another iteration. Yeah, so you can do that when it's brand new. In the different experiences we have in life, we can all of a sudden develop that into, there are people who've got that problem, you've solved it, so you can help that group of people. And then for whatever reason, if you're a person who likes a lot of variety, you can leave that behind, and then you develop a new thing that you've overcome or that you've worked on, and it's a new set of problems that you're helping somebody with.
Yes.
So it's ever evolving. Yeah.
And so if you had someone, for a lot of our listeners, they either have their own business.com, their name.com type business, or they're thinking about doing it. if you had someone there, in front of you saying, what advice would you have for me with building my business under that name? Is there anything in particular advice that you would give them?
I think the biggest thing is to really dig deep into what it is that you love, that you know well, that solves a particular problem because you've solved it, and there are other people out in the world who might have that problem who you can help. And don't try and be somebody else, or like perhaps in the corporate world you had to be a particular role or play out something for somebody. When you're yourname.com, you get to be you get to choose the work that you want, so you don't have to pretend. And it's like, well, I am mentoring this woman who has moved from corporate to her own business. And originally she thought she was a business analyst, she was a great project manager, she had really great skills, but the big international organisation wanted her to go back and be a consultant in that field, and she had all those skills, but she didn't really want to do that. And so when she worked with me, I helped her identify what it was, what made her such a good business analyst and project manager, and it was basically all her relationship skills.
Wow. Okay.
And that's what she loved, and that's what she didn't find in any project manuals anywhere. Yes. And so that's the business she's developing now, and that's what she's absolutely buzzing with excitement and energy, that she's developed all her new intellectual property around relationships, in building relationships across, projects and in that kind of work. But she's now not going back as an advisor on project management. It's an advisor on building the relationships across the system, and she loves it. And so, if she'd just gone back and been a project management consultant, it would have been like having the same job, but just for herself. But when she really got to see what it was she loved, which was totally different from how she used to talk about it, she's now thriving.
Wow. Isn't that incredible? Because what an incredible story. I'm so glad you shared that, because, that's really that essence of who that person is and the uniqueness that they bring. Because how many other project managers or business analysts out there, or people who manage business analysts, go, geez, I wish I could just get better at these managing the relationships. They're so focused on these, but that's what made her so great. And she's worked out a way that solves a big problem that people are willing to buy, and she gets to become herself in being her most fully self-expressed, that she brings something that she thrives off, that adds so much value. What an incredible story. That's fantastic.
Yeah, it is. And it's so great. So great to work with people when they get that, when they really get what they're on about.
That's great. I love it. And that's, she gets to have a bigger impact, which is what, as you know, that's sort of my real purpose is around helping people have a greater impact, and so that the people she can work with have a greater impact. That's terrific. So, Deb, you're doing extraordinary work. So, what are your plans for the next 12 to 18 months? What are you working on?
Well, in the next month, my first book will be out.
Oh, fantastic. What is it called?
It's called Instinct. How to trust yourself, how to trust your senses and intuition to make powerful choices for your life and your work.
Wow, I can't wait to read it.
So that's the first one. What I'm excited about that too is that, because everyone's into creativity these days, so the third part of the book is basically like a journal colouring in book.
Right.
And so that's going to be, when people buy the book, they'll also get to download that as a PDF journal and, either draw themselves or colour in all the beautiful drawings in the guidebook. And I've got 36 videos to go with that. So if people want to do more, they can buy an e-course to go with it. And if they want more, they can, have my services as a mentor and coach. So that's awesome. And then I've got a draft of the second book that I want to get out in the next 12 months. And that's all around what my what I've been talking about a lot lately is what I call leadership and fellowship.
Right.
And so that's around the flatter organisation, the ability for people to step up and lead no matter what their title, and also for people to step into following and being good followers and supporters, and in what I see as a very reciprocal role, very different role from hierarchical organisations. So that's the book I want to get out in the world, and that's what I want to go out and speak about and lead workshops on. So that's my next 12, 18 months.
Wow, That's great. What an exciting time ahead for you. So if we want to find out more about you and we want to find out more about the work you're doing, or if people want to buy your book when it comes out, so it's out in the next month, so by the time this podcast comes out, it won't be too far off. Mm-hmm. So where's the best spot to find you, Deb?
Well, I'm on LinkedIn, and I'm on LinkedIn as Deborah Lange.
Yes.
It is a DEBORAH.
Okay.
And my website is deblange.com, which is DEBLANGE.com. And there'll be a new website by then too. So,
okay. There's lots of renewal happening at the moment.
Yes, definitely.
Reinvention. Thank you so much for being on the show today, Deb. You really are bringing something, I think, that you can hear through the stories and your passion, as well as your compassion for people who are trying to be brave and do the yourname.com. It can be a really courageous thing to do, but in your case, you've been before your time, and we've been able to learn so much from you today. I love that you've shared some of your the personal aspects around having your own children and being able to care for your parents. I think workplace and work-life flexibility and those types of things is sort of like the holy grail for people. But sometimes, when you're on this trajectory into your own business, the flexibility that you thought you might have, you don't always have unless you're going about it the right way. So on behalf of all of us, we really appreciate being able to tap into your expertise and your experience today. So make sure you jump onto Deb's website. So again, that's www.deblange.com, and she's also on LinkedIn under Deborah Lange, DEBORAH. Make sure you connect with Deb, follow her blogs. We'll keep an eye out for your book as well, and we look forward to perhaps hearing about your next book next year.
Awesome. Thanks, Jan. Okay. It's been great having a conversation with you, and great that we've got so many people listening in to this fabulous podcast. Awesome. Thank you.
Thank you.